go.
I'm
Boom.
really excited to play SpongeBob.
I've never played it, honestly. It was kind of a little after my time. So,
I've only played the only SpongeBob movie. I mean, the only SpongeBob game that I played was SpongeBob the movie, the game, and I
I
fucking loved that game as a kid.
I don't think I've ever played any of the SpongeBob games. I had a Jimmy Neutron game. I loved that. That was great.
Never played a Jimmy Neutron game.
I love Jimmy Neutron.
All right, Brian. I think I'm officially ready.
Okay. Well, I've been ready. I've been live.
All right. Okay, so today, episode 1. Last episode was episode 0. Just an introduction on who we are, what this podcast was meant to be, why it came to be. And now, today's the first official episode
Hey, Gustavo.
of... Hello.
I don't think you're live.
It says I've been live for 2 minutes, Brian.
Mine's not showing up on... You are not showing up on mine.
I would suggest refreshing your page.
I did.
Well, you know,
Uh-oh.
how about this? I'm gonna open up.
It literally says you're... Oh, now it says you're live. Okay.
There you go. It
Holy.
probably took.
I literally had to scroll down. It said you were offline still.
All right. Anyways,
Continuing. Sorry.
yeah. Last time was just who we are, what we're doing, why we're doing it. This time we actually get into a topic and we actually talk about shit. Okay.
All right.
Um,
So you want to start or do you want me to? Because I know I'm probably going to have a little more to talk about because, you know, I have more work experience. So,
Yeah. Sure.
So you-
let me just
yeah,
give
go
a
ahead.
Structure, Brian. Structure.
I forget.
We gotta wait before we actually get into the topic. Come on, man. We talked about this. All right.
Ooh.
So this podcast, once again, is just a conversation between me and Brian. Brian being a boomer, me being a Gen Z, and we're just talking about
Millennial.
perspectives. You'll always be a boomer in my eyes, Brian.
And you'll always be a pod eater. It's okay.
Fair enough. But yeah, this is basically just our perspective on the adult world and just various different topics that we're all passionate about and shit like that. So, Brian, I first want to start off by let's talk about our week. Since we do this once a week, we have time to actually like talk about shit, I guess. How was your week?
I mean, mostly just work and stuff, you know, the usual. I don't think I really did anything other than my Nuzlocke stream, which, if you don't know, I do a Nuzlocke stream once a week with my friend Chungus McYee, aka Alba. We do that once a week. Currently, I just beat the first gym leader for the 3rd time now. I'm on my 3rd reset, so it's been a fun time. We're having a lot of fun with it. So even though we suck, absolutely are horrible at the game, it is a lot of fun for both of us to do at least. So it's not horrible. Otherwise, the only other thing of significance is obviously Gustavo and I don't live that far from each other actually. So actually we started a D&D campaign this week. So we did that. It was fun. How about you, Gustavo?
My week, the same thing as you said. I had work, and that was pretty much it. Work
Yeah.
has been fucking rough, my dude.
Yeah, right?
But we are getting along, and we're getting there. Which leads us to our topic today. Work. Regular 9 to 5 jobs. And like how we feel about them. So like you were saying, you have a lot more experience. So it would probably be best if you start talking about your experiences and we can go from there.
So like, because we're kind of just talking about like jobs in general. We went with 9 to 5 as kind of like a generalization. Obviously, most jobs aren't even 9 to 5 anymore. Even though, kind of ironically, I worked 10:30 to 5:30 today, but it's close enough. But no, so for me, like, when I first started, obviously, my first technical job was the military, which is very much not a 9 to 5. As anyone who's actually been in, yeah. So it's pretty much your life. So it's very different than a 9 to 5. And actually, funnily enough, most veterans, when they get out, have trouble working or separating their professional life and their personal life because it was so intertwined when it came to the military. Is it kind of very much feels like, hey, everything goes together at once. But then after that, when I got out, I worked odd and end jobs here and there, usually under the table and stuff. But I ended up working at Toys R Us before that closed. Yeah, that was lots of fun. Not really. So for those of you that don't know me, I have extreme anxiety when it comes to crowds and stuff. So working places like where I currently work, Walmart and Toys R Us and stuff, when it's really packed, is actually extremely hard for me because I have extreme anxiety when it comes to crowds. I don't like being surrounded by people. I've had freakouts over it. So it's one of those weird things that's one of the hardest things about the job I do. And like today was actually a really bad day at work because it was so packed. And I was working up in the deodorant and pharmacy area, and that's always an extremely rough area when it comes to stuff like that because there's so many people up there. So like today sucked for that. So that's one of the biggest issues I've had with finding a job right now, at least, is that anxiety that I deal with crowds and stuff. So that's my biggest issue. Otherwise, like, I worked at Burn Dairy for years, where literally most of what I did was I worked in the back room doing stocking and stuff. But I've never really had a generalized 9 to 5. Like, because one, they're very hard to come by nowadays. Just most places don't have them available because the work schedule, the way, especially in America, it does not work the same way as it used to. I'm not going to try to get too political on this one. The cost of living has gone up while work pay has not, and everything. So you have to work more to be able to do the things you previously could have done just on one job. So when people say that there's not, because one of my biggest issues because obviously I studied business in college. It was my major for my associates and my bachelor's, and one of the big issues I did a lot of research on was work-life balance, because I think it's an extremely important topic that I feel a lot of employers ignore because they don't understand that when there's not that work-life balance for your employees, it literally can destroy their morale and destroy their mindset. So it gets to the point where a lot of people end up getting drained out and quit a job just because they don't have that work-life balance that they're looking towards. I know for me, especially when I was working at Burn Dairy, there was a time where I would work from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. and my wife would work 1 p.m. till 10 p.m. So we literally have zero time together. So it's one of those things that, like, our employer didn't understand because she works with her sister, our boss, and she compared me and my wife's relationship to her and her sister's. And I'm like, you cannot compare that. I'm like, okay. It was one of those things. She's like, well, I never see my sister and we live together. I'm like, yeah, the difference is we actually have a relationship that we're trying to maintain. You cannot compare the two. So it was like, hey, Jordan, how you doing today? So I'll talk about that employer later because I had a lot of issues with her. But yeah, that was one of the big things for me. Was she was not very understanding of that work-life balance, especially when it came to me and my wife both working with her. So when I'm taking a year off of school right now, when I was looking for another job, I refused to go back there because I knew we wouldn't be taken care of. We'd go back to the same old thing where I'm working days, she's working nights again, and I was like, I can't do that. So that's why I went to Walmart instead. And like, I might be moving to days for Walmart as well, but I don't work as much. I was working almost 50 or 40 plus hours a week over at Burn Dairy most days. So it was hell. And like, she really did not understand work-life balance, because it literally came to a point where right before I ended up leaving that job permanently, it was finals week for my graduate school, and I had 40 hours that week, and I called in 2 days in a row. I'm like, I'm sorry, I cannot do it. I'm like, I have too many projects, too many tests. I'm like, I warned you beforehand this was finals week, and you gave me 40 hours. I'm like, I don't feel bad for doing this.
Specifically. That seemed really, really shady. Like that.
Yeah,
Finals week, come on. That's just fucked up.
exactly. That's
Especially
how
if you
I
try
looked
to
at it.
communicate too. That's just really fucked up. But yeah, I've had a different. Well, I haven't had too much experience in the working field, to be honest. I've had this. I'm currently working, and it's I would say my first actual job. I've done other shit, like I've worked before, but it's never been like an official job. It's always either been like volunteer work, or I'm just like helping out a family member with their own shit, or like helping someone else start something up. But I've never had like an actual job until I came to Oswego and started working this year. And the actual job that I have now has been showing me a lot of shit. I'm learning a lot of different shit, like how jobs actually work, and like what you need to do to get what you want. Because I've noticed from the people that I've seen working, at least in my job, you know, getting places is actually not that hard if you know what's needed. Like, for me, I've been fucking working my ass off for the past month trying to get a promotion, because I've been working at the same place for this is my 6th month. And I was doing so much shit to the point where I was considering quitting, because I was doing a lot, but I feel like I wasn't being compensated enough for all the effort that I've been doing, because I've been doing way more than like what's required of me. I've been fucking doing above and beyond my job, and I don't know, after a while it's just like you want to go somewhere. What I do is I pretty much clean this warehouse that makes like apple slices for like schools and like Chick-fil-A and shit like that. So the warehouse has to be cleaned every single day, and that's pretty much my job. I'm at least on paper I'm supposed to just be cleaning. In reality, I'm doing like cleaning. I'm making like a solution that's supposed to go into the apples. That's a completely different job aside from cleaning. I am also doing like things in the back end of the company as well, trying to help them out and shit. And after a while of doing all that, and like still not feeling like you're being compensated for it, and feeling like you're still stuck in the same place, it's kind of a bit demoralizing. So I was at a point where I just straight up told my supervisor, yo, if I'm doing all this and I feel like I'm being underpaid and I'm gonna be forced in a situation where I'm gonna have to move to a different job just because of better opportunity, because I feel like I'm getting underpaid. And ever since then, things have been looking up for work because I know my worth, and I've been able to communicate that I know my worth, and I've actually been putting in the work. So it makes sense for me to, go somewhere with the job. So I've been working stupidly hard, and now I'm in a very, very good position to get an actual promotion, which I'm very, very excited for.
You're welcome, by the way.
What do you mean you're welcome?
How much did I talk to you about this whole situation with your job? Who was the one who kept telling you, dude, you need... Yeah. See, now he starts laughing because he's realizing I'm right.
Look. Brian
Yes.
was a
yes,
help.
Gustav. Yeah. A help.
Yeah.
I was a lot of it.
Look,
So I won't say... Because I will state this, because Gustavo actually came to me for this situation, because obviously this was actually, I think, right when we started talking about wanting to do the podcast that this all came up, because this was one of the big things we wanted to end up talking about, was because of this situation, was why the job thing came up in the first place. So it came down to, we were talking about it and we're like, well, why don't we... I was like, well, you need to think about, one, the job itself, because there were other things going on in the background that I won't talk about for him. But I was like, you need to think about you, like what's going to move you forward most, what's going to help you the most. I was like, because yeah, you want to obviously not burn bridges, but you also cannot be expected to do things that you're not comfortable with, and you can't put yourself in a bad position, because other people... This was one of probably the hardest things that I had to keep telling Gustavo, was other people will step over you and not think twice.
yeah, I've been learning that the hard way.
Yeah, so it can't... A lot of me getting Gustavo to understand that came from literally him dealing with that exact situation. So I think the important part with that, and what I hope you guys take out of this, is understand that a lot of employers aren't going to give a shit or don't notice anything until you tell them. And sometimes they know it and they're like, well, we're waiting on you to say something. So it comes down to knowing, as Gustavo said, knowing your worth, and not being afraid to speak up. Because if you're afraid to speak up, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, I've noticed that pretty much if you want something, you have to just fucking go for it, and pretty much don't take no for an answer. If you're given a no, give them a reason to give you a yes. Like, pretty much. I've been working very, very hard, and I've been told no just because things weren't available at the time, and it sucks, yeah, but I didn't take that as something to like take to heart. I just took it as all right, I got told no, I'm gonna just put in more work and force them to give me a yes. And that's pretty much what I've been doing, and it's working out. Things started lining up, and I'm now being considered. I'm being highly considered for a lead position that pays a lot better, and it's a lead position, so I'll be managing a team, and yeah, things are looking very up for me. And that's mostly because I'm actually putting in the work. I'm doing a lot more than what I need to, and sometimes that's just what you have to do.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, go ahead, Gustavo.
No, I was just gonna say, Don, if you had anything, like any similar experiences or anything like that.
So obviously, I've been put in a lot of different situations, especially like military being the big one, where like you usually do not get it. It does not, because the one thing I hated most in the military was rank literally came down to time. It wasn't always who knew their job best. It wasn't always anything like that, which, yes, for a lot of people, you probably think, oh, that's like how it should be. But when you don't know your job, why do you deserve to move forward? Is how I've always looked at it. So that was my biggest issue with the military. Was oftentimes it was you move forward because you've been there so long. That's literally it. And I'm sure anyone who's former military can attest to that. And so, like, it's an issue, but it comes down to the logistics of, like, how they think about it. But, like, I had people who did not know their jobs above me. And, like, a lot of the times it's like, well, why do you deserve to be above me if you don't know your job? But I know the job. But it comes down to, as I said, the preference that individuals have. And while there's nothing I could do, sadly, about a lot of the issues I had within the military, it also came down to, how am I trying to phrase this? Understanding that only so much can be done, especially in the context of something like the military. There's a hard line that sometimes just can't be crossed when it comes to, like, the military.
And yeah, when you say that there are people that don't know what they're doing and they're still like in a higher position and you feel like you deserve to be there, like you know more than them.
Mm-hmm.
That is very, very common. I've noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it doesn't really take that much effort to get a promotion, because if you really pay attention,
You can see
that,
what's missing.
yeah, you can see that the people that are, well, in my case, some of the people that were in a higher position, they didn't really know what they were doing. They either didn't know what they were doing, or they were like not efficient whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And that mostly came up to like just being lazy and not wanting to do their job. Because, you know, after a while, I get it though, because after a while of doing the same thing every single day, and if you've had, you know, a couple years already doing it, it does tend to be mundane. And
Mm-hmm.
that might
But it comes down to, at that point, then why are you in the position? Is how I've always looked at something like that. Is you really shouldn't be in that kind of position. If you've gotten to the point where your job does not feel rewarding, maybe it's either time to move up or move on. Is how I've looked at it.
Yeah. So for me,
go ahead.
That just shows, you know, there's basically a bar for you to cross, and sometimes that bar is very, very low. So it's not hard getting to where you want to be. If you're like, in my case, I'm at the very bottom right now because I'm just a regular sanitation worker. So it's not, the bar is so low where I literally just do a little bit outside of my job, outside of what I'm expected to do, and that's already enough for me to be considered for other shit. Like, I've gotten to the point where I've been considered for 3 different promotions just for, you know, putting in a little bit more effort. Like, I've had to decline some promotions because, you know, sometimes things just don't line up. Like, at one point, this is another thing I came up to you about, which you helped me realize that it wasn't best for me, because this was the first promotion I was offered, and at this point, I really, really wanted a promotion since, I was doing so much and I felt like it wasn't really being noticed. So I
Mhm.
really wanted to find a way where the promotion would work out, and it was just not viable whatsoever. But I was very, very determined to make it viable.
Mhm. And like honestly, I think me and you spent what almost an hour talking that through that promotion and
Yep.
everything, and like it came down to I think what because I don't know what I said to finally get through your head, but I kept just making sure you understood. There's things you're gonna sacrifice here if you make this decision, and I think that probably was what got through your head. I think is because
It
you
was
understood. Go ahead.
it was more of you know that plus really thinking about what I wanted to do, the things that I wanted to do, and what I would actually have time to do. All of those together is what kind of brought me to the decision of, hey, this isn't really the best for you. You need to figure something out, and, or just wait.
Mm-hmm.
But you made it very, very clear that it was not possible, and I do
Yeah, no.
appreciate that. 'Cause
And
I
like
was
that's
trying very hard to make it possible.
yeah. And like that's another thing I think is extremely important for people to understand is you don't always have to take the first offer. It's not always the
Yeah,
best offer.
yeah,
Uh
yeah. That is very true. If I took that offer, I would have fucked myself. To be honest,
yeah.
I would not be in a position I am now, and I am going to be in a position that's a lot better now.
Mhm. And I think that's like extremely important cuz like for me, I'm essentially a department manager over at Walmart without having the actual title. I essentially run my own section by myself, and for me it comes down to a lot of it is I bust my tail when it comes to it, and I'm extremely smart. So like stuff like understanding how to do basic tasks is a lot easier, and if you have that understanding and you can make it where people understand that, hey, I know what I'm doing, they're more likely to put you into a position of, hey, yeah, so you're going to be in charge here. And so I got really lucky because my original position, I was going to be in the frozen and dairy section. And I was not properly trained at all. I had very little information on what was going on in my area. And it was frustrating for me at first because it's like, well, I don't know what's going on here. Like, how am I supposed to do my job if no one's telling me what it is I'm supposed to be doing? So it's one of those things, once again, that I think you don't truly understand and take in until you've gotten to the point of where you have a better knowledge of yourself and kind of like where you're trying to go in the world. And like I still am not 100%. Spoiler alert for everyone in chat. I'm not 100% at all on what I want in this world. I probably never will fully know, but it's okay not to always know everything. The more important part is to understand kind of not so much what you're trying to do, but what you're trying to achieve, which is another topic we've talked about doing in the future. I don't want to get too far into it, but I think it's extremely important to discuss when it comes to stuff like work is understanding, like, as I said, not always taking the first thing, the carrot that hangs in front of you, because maybe on the other side of the 10 feet away there's a entire pile of carrots, but sometimes that first carrot,
that first carrot can be very blinding.
especially if you haven't had a carrot in a while, you might be really looking for it. But it's one of those things like you don't understand until you've been in that situation.
and that's something you can apply to not just work. It's something that you can apply to literally anything, to be honest.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that's kind of where I hope people are kind of understanding where we're coming from, is that this isn't just, a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about isn't just applicable to stuff like work. We're just in this context talking about it mostly because, like, I just got off work, so it's funny to talk about. Which actually, I had some funny things happen today.
Oh
So,
boy.
oh, it's funny. So, the city we live in is not a great area. So I was working up in the pharmacy and shampoo area and stuff, and up there's also like condoms and vibrators. A woman who is known for stealing walks up and gets one of the really small vibrators, and yeah, and my coworker is like, she's about to steal that, and I'm like, oh. He's like, yeah, she was in here earlier doing it, so. He's like, just watch her. She did. Spoiler alert. But no, it's one of those hilarious things. It's like, she stole it to go give it to sell it for drugs, and like that's a common occurrence at Walmart.
I hate to see that one.
Yeah. But it was just a funny situation that she stole a vibrator for drugs. Like, it's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. But also, not surprising. Then actually a little bit later, a bunch of people were buying condoms, and my coworker Luis, who is very how do I put this politically correct? I'm not
Politically correct.
I don't want to insult the dude. He's a good dude. He is he's LGBTQ. He's an awesome dude. I absolutely love him. He made the joke about, because people were buying condoms, he's like, everybody's getting ready for quarantine. I'm like, right? At least we won't have a massive baby boom this time. Hopefully. I couldn't resist. Hey, I thought it was a funny joke. That's why I'm glad the people I work with, they're good folks, everything, and
yeah, that's another thing with work. You
have to find people you can work with.
Well. Yeah,
like that was
if you don't have anyone that you can talk to and shit like that.
Yeah,
work can be very, 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 very hard to actually want to go there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can tell you, from my perspective, I'm very, very introverted. I don't talk to a lot of people. So, and plus, I'm 20, going for 21 right now, and all of my coworkers are, pretty much 30s to 40.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very hard to find people that you can talk to, especially when my job has a lot of language barriers, because there are people that don't speak English, there are people that only speak Spanish, and there are people that only speak this language called Karen, which is supposed to be like a very rare language that's basically just like from a very small community. But it just so happens that a lot of the people that from my workspace are from that place.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people, and I have absolutely, I know one word of Karen. It means, and it means a lot of things, so I have to be careful whenever I use it. It can mean like, how are you? It can mean like, what the fuck are you doing, in like an aggressive way. There's like 2 other implications as well. I just can't remember, but I have to be very careful when how I use that word. But yeah, if you can't find like people to talk to, work can be very, very rough.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, in my case, I've gotten pretty close with my supervisor, you know, especially since I'm trying to go for the lead position and we'll be working pretty much directly. But luckily me and him are cool, and you know, I consider him a friend at this point. So I've had someone to talk to, and I spent a good, you know, I'd say 4 months of just going to work and not really talking to anyone, just getting my shit done and going back home, doing the same thing over and over again. And that's fucking rough, dude. That shit is super fucking rough. Doing that shit every day.
I actually had that issue the first time I worked, or the second time when I came back to Burn after the first time I left. Is I had an employee I always worked with in the morning shift. What's up, Wiz? And he was a big rocker. He loved video games, loved wrestling. So me and him were constantly talking. And when COVID hit, because I went back to Burn when COVID first hit, he had to leave because his wife is immune compromised. So he had to make the rough choice to leave work. So I came back and I started working mornings, and I'm like, where's Dave? And they're like, Dave had to quit. And it was really sad for me because I was like, but that's my dude. I'm like I still have him on Facebook and stuff, and we still talk from time to time. But it's like, it sucks to lose an employee that like you're really close to. Especially like when I came back to work, and like that was the most excited thing I was for going back to Burn. At that point, was going back and having my favorite coworker back. So
Yeah. It's a thing of, you know, trying to find the best out of. I mean, it doesn't really have to be a bad situation. You could just genuinely really enjoy your job.
yeah,
But if you don't enjoy your job, if your job is, you know, classic. You're
like I'm just doing work
to make money and trying to get by, then you gotta find a way to make the most out of your situation.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
100%.
You gotta be there regardless, so you might as well enjoy it.
Like that's how I've always looked at like people that like love to rag on their jobs. Like if you're really not enjoying it that much, why are you still there?
Yeah, that's true. There's, you know, sometimes it could be difficult, but
Oh yeah, like right now it's so hard to like leave a job and go find someplace else because so few places are hiring. So many places have gone out of business and such with COVID that it makes it really hard, especially like if you worked in a certain area, like to be able to change. It's almost impossible for some people.
I'd agree and disagree.
Well, like let's say you were making $16 an hour at your old job.
Well, yeah.
Then
at the end of the day, there's sacrifices to a decision like that. There's pros and cons always. You can enjoy what you're doing and like not get paid as well sometimes, or sometimes you can just like keep doing what you're doing, get paid decently, and you know sometimes it sucks, but you're doing what you gotta do. So
I think it really comes down to, oh yeah, let's go. Sorry, I won TFT.
Oh, nice.
Let's go 9 Elderwood.
I guess it would depend on your personal situation.
Well, obviously, like if you can afford to, like right now with COVID, a lot of people just can't find a new job, which obviously comes down to the economy right now, which absolutely sucks. Other people just can't afford to take a job for health reasons. Which is absolute hell that's a thing we have to even contemplate. Is I've had family and friends that risk going to work, but they can't afford to not go to work because they can't go on unemployment for one reason or another. And it's absolute hell that like you have to go through that right now. And I really wish, like, yet again, not to try to get too political here, but I really wish the government had done a little more to help people, because we kind of got into a really shit situation, and like their biggest excuse for not closing down was not wanting to hurt the economy, but they hurt it in other ways, in my opinion. So I think like jobs right now are really hard to come by, because like my wife has contemplated getting a new job, but it comes down to there's so few places that are hiring, and like so it makes it much harder to go find a place where you, especially for her, where she needs at least 30 hours, and a lot of places can't even offer you that. Like I had applied to GameStop right at the end of the semester from school, and they had offered me the job, but they could only offer me 4 hours a week.
Yeah,
And I'm like, I literally can't live off that. And they're like, trust me, we understand, because I had actually gotten the job offer from Walmart about the same time. And they're like, no, take that. They're like, we can't offer you the pay or the hours they can. And like, I'm extremely grateful to them, because I'm actually really good friends with a lot of people that work over there. But it's one of those shitty situations. It's like, well, what do you do about it? Because like, I would have.
That's another thing.
Go ahead.
Like when you are talking to other people, don't burn bridges.
No, never.
In your case, you couldn't take the job, but you know you didn't burn a bridge. You're still good friends with people there.
Mm-hmm.
If anything were to change, and if their situation were to change, you still have that option if you really want to.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really sucks when I see people like wanting something different, but then they fucking just like absolutely destroy a bridge while they're getting there. That I find that like
Disgusting.
I wouldn't say disgusting. I would just say very stupid.
See, for me, it is straight up disgusting, because once again, as I said before, I think having those relationships is so important, especially because, let's say, down the line, maybe you're not applying to that company, but maybe they're now the manager of another company.
Yeah.
And they see your application go across. It's so for me, it's like, well, why would you burn that bridge and potentially ruin your chances of ever getting to that place again? Like, it makes no sense for me.
Yeah, you never know what someone
Who's going to be helpful in the long run is how I've always looked at it.
and like, you know, that also shouldn't be like the main thing you see in people, like just
No.
opportunities,
But you
just
should
never know.
never see somebody as not a opportunity to grow with them. Because even though I will state, this is a topic I'll probably want to actually discuss later, is dealing with toxicity in your life, and especially toxic individuals. Never be afraid to cut people out, but never cut people out without a good reason.
Yeah.
Especially like a coworker or anything like that. Unless you have a good reason to cut them out, it's not smart. Like, because, yeah, again, as I said, I hate to say it like this, but very much people have use, and I know that sounds really messed up to say. Sounds really messed up, but it's the truth. Is like, yes, not every relationship needs to be useful, but every relationship can be useful, is how I'll put that. Because I think it's extremely important to understand that sometimes the relationship maybe isn't actually useful, but as long as it's not toxic, then where's the problem with it? It's once it gets toxic. Because actually I've had issues with now my former boss over at Walmart, because I moved departments, where he's one day we were talking, and he had brought up me not saying what he's telling me to my current boss, which immediately for me was a red flag. No surprise. But then he proceeds to say, "Don't forget who got you this job."
Oh,
And that
that's
was a massive red flag in my head. Immediately, I was like, this is not okay what he just said. So it kind of, for me, it was very much like, it was a situation like I didn't go to my boss, but I have it written down when it happened and everything, what was said exactly. So if anything ever comes up from it, I can go higher up. But like that dude's,
records.
yep.
You're right.
Which I will suggest always take records of stuff like that, because stuff like that, yes, maybe you don't think of it at the time as toxic, but it could become down the line, which is extremely important to think about when it comes to stuff like that, where you don't know what their intention or what their thought process was behind, a phrase like that. Because a phrase like that can be so ominous. Because, like, does he mean he can get me fired? He can essentially remove me from where I'm at, move me back to where I was. Like, it's a very ominous kind of thing. And, yeah, maybe he didn't mean anything by it. But what if he did?
Yeah, you can never really know for sure what someone else is thinking.
Exactly. So, like, it's one of those situations, like, I didn't want to go higher up in case it was nothing, but I also didn't want to do absolutely nothing in case it was something.
Yeah.
So
That's another thing I've learned, you know, make sure you're keeping records of, like, everything.
Oh, yeah.
You know, make sure you keep all your pay stubs. Make sure you, like, know where all your money's going to, where all your paychecks, like, make sure everything lines up. Keep a personal record of when you get to work, when you leave, so that if you ever need to look over your paycheck and let's say you're like missing hours, you know exactly what's missing and you know exactly what needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen some situations with other people, luckily not me, but I've learned from their situations, and you know sometimes you gotta do that to make sure that you're okay. But
Yeah, like, actually, going into that, actually. So, funnily enough, when I was in the military, I had actually enlisted, like, the very end of my junior year of high school. So, I spent 14 months, essentially, where I was what they called the Future Soldier Program, where essentially I'd be getting paid, 12 months I was signed up for. I'd get $100 for every month I was involved in the Future Soldier Program. Obviously, that ended up being $1,200. When I got it, it was supposed to get to me after I finished basic training. I ended up never getting that money. I had to go back through all of my old pay stub records to to prove that, hey, I did not get this money. Y'all owe me this money. And I ended up not getting it until I was getting ready to get out over 3 years later. So, like, it was a hassle to take care of.
yeah, I'm probably gonna have to do the same thing with school, to be honest. They've before I had this job, I guess I did have a job, but it's not really a traditional job. It was work study. Pretty much you work, like, let's say it's a maximum of 20 hours a week. It's part-time. But you're working and doing stuff that's like very basic, so you still have time to actually study. Or at least that's what it's meant to be. So yeah, I worked last semester. I worked both the job that I currently have and work study. So basically every day after I finished my job, I would stop by the school for an hour and get the job there done, and then go home. And you know, I fucked up a little bit because I also had my own shit, so I submitted a couple hours late, a couple timesheets late, and I get that. I fucked up, so I've been patiently waiting, but I've been waiting for quite some time now, and I still haven't received any of that money. And I've kind of just been waiting because I have other shit to worry about, and compared to the money, the money that I'm missing out isn't really that much compared to like my other shit, so I haven't been too stressed about it. It's just like once I get it, it'll be nice. So I haven't really like bothered the school about it too much, but at this point, I need to talk to the school.
Get on yourself about it,
because I checked the website because we have a website where we submitted our hours, and then our supervisor has to approve of it, make sure everything's all right. So everything was approved, and it's already just the school not giving me money, so I have to bring that up to them soon. Oh shit. Yeah, so always make sure you have records of everything, please. That's very important. If you take anything out of this entire talk, please just like keep records of everything.
Yeah, 100%. Because like actually that situation has happened a lot with my wife since she became supervisor, where stuff has happened, and because she does not see her boss ever. Her boss yeets immediately, does not make time for her and stuff. So she has I think she's on her second notebook of issues she's had at work.
Yeah.
And it's extremely important, especially like if you are in a leadership position, especially. Make sure you have records of things, because especially like if you're working in like a bigger corporation, that can save your ass from situations let's say somebody so here's I technically probably shouldn't even talk about this, but I'm going to. It's fine. So Gustavo, you've actually heard this story.
Oh, okay, cool. I don't remember what you're gonna talk about.
So I had a individual who had moved to my store fairly recently, and me and another coworker were working in the back. We were actually going back and forth on Hamilton lyrics, and this individual accused one of us of saying the N-word actually at work.
Oh, I remember this now.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Dude,
this individual had actually been problematic before this. He had caused a lot of issues at work, and so what the red flag was my wife knows. Obviously, my wife was supervisor at the time. She knows me. She knows that is not something that, especially out of malice, would ever come out of my mouth. The other coworker is also extremely not that kind of person. So when the individual came up and said that to her, she was extremely confused. But literally, so where the red flags come in was this individual had gone to the back and was caught on his phone. And it was believed he was calling his girlfriend. And this was right before he accused us of saying this. He then proceeds to come out, talk to Karina about it, and then she proceeds to get a call from a woman who does not leave her name or number, but just accuses us of saying something, of her being able to hear it.
Yeah, that's just fucked up.
It was an extremely messed up situation. Like, as I said, I don't even like talking about it because it very much upset me to the point I almost quit that day, because I was just like, I don't know how to deal with this situation. But obviously he ended up getting found out. We checked the phone records. It was his girlfriend that called in, who we knew was not there. So he got caught in a lie, ended up quitting Burnberry. So it was an extremely messed up situation that left me very much in a bad position. But at the same time, like, it kind of got me into the mindset of, okay, I can't trust this individual. As soon as that accusation happened, because I knew me nor the other individual had said it. So I called him out, or I actually did not speak to him before he quit, because I knew nothing good would come from that.
Yeah.
So I decided to completely avoid him. Huh?
Know your battles.
Exactly. Because if I had confronted him, he would have put it as me being confrontational after the fact. So I knew better than to go in and say anything to him. So I avoided him for 2 weeks. And he ended up accusing me of avoiding him and stuff. And I'm like, bruh, what? It was not a good situation. It very much left me with a bad taste in my mouth from Burnberry. So it was probably one of the harder pills I had to swallow. Was that because I won't say that I'm an extremely progressive person. I'm not overly progressive, but I try to be, especially when it comes to stuff like Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. Because obviously I have a lot of friends that are black, that are Latino, that are LGBTQ. So those kind of situations I take extremely personally and very much view them as important to kind of discuss and make sure people understand those situations. So for me, that accusation hurt more from that aspect, because I very much see myself as, I'm not going to say I'm a great ally. I'm not. All I do is retweet shit and share shit and cause family issues. If anyone's on my Facebook and sees that, I'm well known to say things I probably should not say. But I'm also somebody who will defend anyone literally to a fault for the most part until you burn that bridge with me. Because obviously, so those are things that we're going to discuss later. I know Gustavo and I have talked about Black Lives Matter. Probably talk a little bit about LGBTQ down the line in another episode. So I don't want to get too far into that.
It's a very
and stuff.
important episode coming.
Yeah, we really want to do that episode, especially with how the world is right now. I think both of us can 100% agree. It's an extremely important topic.
Yeah, and when we do have that episode, I want to make sure it's a really good episode. So I'm giving us some time that we can work out any kinks, any problems that we have now before having something so important.
Agreed. Anything else you'd like to discuss? Because we're coming up on an hour here. Or no, we can go an hour and a half, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Up until an hour and a half. We're doing pretty good so far.
Okay. I keep forgetting that it's that long.
yeah. I actually wanted to see if you've had any interesting or weird jobs or anything you've had to do in your job that was, maybe funny or something. I don't know.
I've done a lot of weird stuff. I'm gonna save a lot of my military stories for when we do that discussion.
Yeah.
But probably for a long time, because obviously Gustavo's gotten his ass kicked by me at arm wrestling, but the reason for that. So I'll give the context for that. So the reason for that is a lot of my, especially my younger days, my childhood, my now ex-stepfather he owned a firewood business. So I spent a lot of time splitting firewood, carrying firewood around, and it made me like really stupid strong. I don't look it. I am a fat little fuck now. But like I still have that undertone muscle from all those years of doing that. So
Look,
it's one of those things. I had to get it in a jab somewhere, Gustavo.
Look. I'll beat you in arm wrestling someday, okay? I'm getting stronger. I'm getting there. I'm working.
So am I. That's the problem. Ooh, look at them guns. Look at them guns. Mm.
Yeah, okay. All right.
It's all that lifting
We'll
of
get
dog
there
food and
eventually.
shit.
We'll get there eventually.
But no, but I've also, so another weird thing that, I don't even think Gustavo knows about me is in high school I was in BOCES. And actually during my time, huh?
You were in what?
You don't know what BOCES is?
No.
Is that really an upstate exclusive thing?
I am a city boy and I am also young. You are a boomer. Explain.
BOCES is still a thing. That's why I
don't even know
asked
what
if
that
it's
is.
exactly.
All right, please.
But no. So BOCES is essentially training on like more obscure jobs, stuff like mechanics, chefs, stuff like that. It's like more hands-on training of those kind of things. So in
like grade school?
yeah, kind of. Except for it's done in high school and you can go for free.
Oh, yeah. I've never heard of that in the city.
It's probably not a city thing. It's probably an upstate thing. But I actually was in BOCES for my junior year. During which, actually, because this will probably surprise a lot of people what I went to BOCES for. I was actually in floral design and greenhouse tech.
Floral design. What?
Yeah, because I specialized in greenhouse tech there. I had to do all the floral design because that's required. But I worked in the greenhouse most times because I liked working with plants and stuff. So I got to really get into that. But because of that, I learned how to make these things called, they're called kissing balls. They're essentially a ball of styrofoam that you put pine needles in. Usually it's made after you make a wreath. You use the scraps from the wreath to make the kissing ball. And actually, when I got out the military before I started school, I had a local individual who had a God, why can't I think of it? A Christmas tree lot, and he was looking to have somebody do that work. And my mom knew I could do it previously and asked if I'd be willing to do it for him. I didn't really like it. The dude was a dick, but like it came down to, okay, sure, I guess I'll do this. And like that was probably the weirdest job I've done since the military. I haven't really done that much work-wise because a lot of my stuff has been, I've been focusing on school so much, and I've had that ability because of the military. I will state that. So for a long time, I didn't have to work. I could focus on school because for those of you who don't know, I'm also technically partially disabled by the military because yay. But yeah. So along with that, I'm also God, why can I think of the words? So I also got really lucky in that case, and nope, I'm not gonna be able to get the words. Damn it.
It happens. It's alright.
But yeah, so essentially because of the situation the military gave me, I didn't have to focus on working for a long time because I'm partially disabled by the military, so they give me a little over. It's enough to pay my rent. That's what I'll say.
You don't have to do
I don't need to give numbers,
Yeah.
but and then for a while, this number I will give just because it is common knowledge. I got $1,200 a month for going to school.
Oh,
So it took.
school too? Or part of it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yep, as until I had 3 years of schooling, 3 years worth of schooling to be able to use. So I got really lucky in that case.
I never knew that was a thing.
A lot of people don't. That's one of the things, like, with the military. Let's go. One sec, sorry. I will continue my discussion in a moment. I need to, like, really work on this one, because otherwise I'm about to lose.
Are you still playing TFT?
Yeah.
I've
But-
been mindlessly running around in SpongeBob.
But yeah, no. So for me, that's where I got very lucky with a lot of the military stuff, is I didn't have to focus on working. I could focus on school. That's why, like, when I got to graduate school and I didn't really have that option anymore, school became a lot harder because I did have to kind of figure out financial situation and stuff.
Was it
'Cause-
because you've already have 3 years, or was it?
Yup,
graduate
I've
school?
already used my 3 years.
Mm.
So it made it much more difficult. That's part of the reason like, especially this semester. This semester was really hard because so much else was going on. So it immediately made everything harder for me to focus on school.
Yeah, COVID is a bitch.
Yeah. But yeah, no. So actually, I will talk about one last thing when it comes to work. So, like, my work ethic, oddly enough, is probably the one thing other than my name I got from my father. My father he's never really been that big in my life, but the one thing I've always known my father for is his work ethic. The dude busts his ass. He's smart as hell. He's also extremely lazy when it comes to a lot of things. He doesn't have a lot of ambition for most things. Like, his boss told him if he could get his degree, he'd move him upward throughout the entire company. And my dad he doesn't have that kind of drive. Where, like, I got his work ethic on, like, busting my ass constantly. I'm glad I didn't get his mindset on ambition. That's something very much I kind of got from my mother, and I kind of got myself, where I very much pushed myself to, because that's one of the things I will state. If you can find for yourself, the most important thing is ambition. I think it's extremely important to find something that you can drive yourself forward, because it's going to be one of the hardest. It's the one thing no one else can force into you.
Yeah.
Is ambition and a drive to do something. No one else can force it into you. People will try. I have tried to force it into other people, but you literally cannot force somebody to have ambition and to have drive and to want something.
At the end of the day, they need to want it for them to get it.
Exactly. So, like, even because, like, this is something we're definitely going to talk about in another episode, because Gustavo's specifically wanted this topic. But one of the hardest things to understand is finding your own ambition and finding something you're passionate about. So I think that's an extremely important thing to understand when it comes to working and stuff. Is, yeah, you might not be ambitious at your current job, which is fine, but you at least need to find a common area within your job where you can at least be like, I'm going to get myself this far, or I'm going to have this goal while I'm working here. And I think it's an extremely important thing that people kind of brush over, because, like, they're just like, it's just a job. But I think that's a lot of the problem people have, is they look at it as just a job. Like, for me, how I'm looking at, because I'm not looking at Walmart as obviously a long-term thing. It is not a long-term thing in any way, shape, or form. But more importantly, it is a stepping stone, is how I'm looking at it. It's additional job experience. It's additional opportunities. That's how I look at things. And I think that's what kind of puts me aside from a lot of people, is a lot of people don't understand that those kind of things are extremely important when it comes to working a job. Is some people don't want to look at it as, oh, well, I'm looking at this as just a stepping stone, or I don't know what I'm doing. It's not the right way to look at any job. So my advice within that is make sure you understand kind of where you're at and potentially where you're going, because that is such.
Have a similar approach. Well, in terms of at least getting the promotion that I'm going for,
Mm-hmm.
it's not. To me, it's not really. Oh, I'm getting paid more. It's I get this promotion and I work for at least like a couple months. That's pretty much job security in that field for me. I basically, with this promotion, I won't have to. I can go into like any warehouse and be like, hey, I can clean. I know what I'm doing. I've had experience even leading the whole team. I can pretty much take care of myself and I'll be solid. Like, I don't think I have to worry about not knowing if I can ever work anywhere, because if I get this position and if I work my ass off like I am now, I'll be in a very good spot, at least in terms of like resume, experience, and just overall knowledge on how to do things.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think it's extremely important to, especially like, because I think that's where your mind was when you were offered that first promotion, was looking at it as good. Because probably another topic we'll do way down the line is advancing yourself, and I'll probably talk about a lot of like the club stuff, because as we mentioned in the first episode, or episode 0, Gustavo and I know each other through Esports Association, so I'll probably talk a little bit about advancing oneself there a little bit more. But yeah.
Yeah. What was I gonna say?
Mm.
Man, I hate it when this shit happens. I think of something, then I get distracted for a second. I completely
Yeah, right.
lose my train of thought. Well, we're running for like an hour and 15 minutes. I think this is a decent spot to like end things,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to get into like another topic and then, oh shit, we don't have enough time, and then we're just like rushing. So I think this is a decent spot to end things, and we can either have a part 2 to this discussion some other time, or
yeah, if anyone has any opinions or anything, feel free to shoot us messages or anything. Give us ideas, your thoughts. We're always willing to listen and kind of give our context to stuff.
Which is a good segue to Brian. Where can these lovely people find you?
So you can find me obviously on my Twitch at twitch.tv/Hawkeye57_57, on my Twitch or Twitter at Hawkeye57_, and that is currently it until further notice.
Yes, sir. And as for me, you can find me on Twitch at TheEnderGames12, and you can find me on Twitter at RealEnderGames. And of course, you can always stop by and tweet us anything if you know we have anything we want to discuss. We are working on a Discord so that we can have direct communication with other people, and you know, if they want to have a conversation or leave some feedback or anything, we have that direct connection that will happen soon. I just have to take the time to actually finish it.
Mm-hmm.
And if until then, you can just shoot us a message or tweet us in Twitter or something, and we'll be sure to see it.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us this week, and we hope to see you guys again soon.
Yep. See you next Saturday, 7 p.m. EST.
Yep.
All right. Whoa, I just realized that I can use my mouse and I've been using my controller